Yes, yes. Peace, 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 and blessings. Universal peace and blessing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all those who are listening. This is an exclusive New Freedom Exchange segment. Happy Juneteenth to everybody out here who's celebrating, commemorating Juneteenth. This is an exclusive part of the African American Exodus series here in New Freedom Exchange, and we welcome back to the studio one of the pioneers of cinema music, the one and only Shadi Akhi, who will be speaking to us on a very, very, very special topic that he wanted to talk about. And I'm going to fall back and allow him to do his thing and speak on it. And we'll be taking some questions. Hit us in the comment section, and we'll take your questions. And we look forward to having a very interactive time here on New Freedom Exchange. So, without further ado, Shadi, salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How you doing?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, bro?
How's everybody doing? Can y'all get this cover off?
Yeah. Let's get this cover off real quick. Okay. There we go.
All right. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So I just want to say happy Juneteenth to everybody. I also want to say that it's a pleasure to be on New Freedom Exchange and to do a lecture for y'all. I know that y'all want to see the youth more involved, so we're taking on that challenge right now. So I'm going to start off with a quote. Well, I would like you to introduce what the title is first, Bilal.
Okay, so the title of today's lecture that Shadi has chosen to present is How to Bring About Freedom, Justice, and Equality for the Black Man and Woman in America, Integration versus Separation.
Yes. So, with that being said, I want to start out with a quote from a man named Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden. And I'm going to first start out by telling you who he was, and I'm going to let y'all see what he looks like. Now, this man, let's see. Now, this man was born August 3rd, 1832. He was an educator. He was a writer, diplomat, and politician, primarily in Liberia. Born in the West Indies, he joined the free Black immigrants from the United States who migrated to the region. He taught for 5 years in the British West Indies, the British West African colony, of Sierra Leone, in the early 20th century. His writings on Pan-Africanism were influential in both colonies. These were founded during the slavery years for the resettlement of free Blacks from Great Britain and the United States. So I was first introduced to this man by Dr. Ali Muhammad. I was first made aware. He's the one that first introduced us and made us aware of this man, Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden. So I want to say shout out to Dr. Ali Muhammad. So to elaborate on that, as a people who went through 300 and some odd years of slavery and are still going through oppression, I'm gonna be real. We have to be sick to want to join in with the people who enslaved us, and put us through the Holocaust that we went through. Dr. Ali Muhammad teaches us that we shouldn't just say we went through slavery. You understand what I'm saying? We should say that we went through a Holocaust. We went through a 300 and some odd years long Holocaust. of generations and generations. So I want to keep going. Now, after Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden, we had other notable men like Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, and of course, as we know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad took it to a whole new level because this man actually accomplished everything that he said that he was going to accomplish, right? So what did he accomplish? My first resource I'm going to look at is a website called blackpass.org. And this is a Black-owned website that speaks about and creates articles based on Black history. And this article was on the NOI. So the information I'm getting right now about what the NOI accomplished under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I'm getting straight from this website. So the Nation of Islam, under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, built an $80 million empire. A lot of people don't know this. You know, we speak about Black Wall Street, Greenwood, the different Black communities, but no one ever speaks about what the NOI built, you know, which was a Muslim Black Wall Street, what the NOI built. And I'm going to keep going into detail about everything that they obtained, everything that they accomplished. So just so y'all know, $80 million in 2020 will be worth about $381,255,018.59. So if we had that today, that's what we would be worth. But imagine if we still, it never ended. And we still had this empire, where we would be now. We would be into the billions, maybe into the trillions, as far as what our nation is worth. So some of the things we had, and it's not all of the things, were farms, fleets of trucks, an airplane, grocery stores, dress shops, dry cleaners, bakeries, a clothing factory, a bank, and etc. We had the first Black-owned national food production distribution network. The Muhammad Speaks newspaper was not only one of the most profitable enterprises that the NOI had, it was at one time one of the largest Black-owned publications in the nation. So we accomplished a whole lot. So this shouldn't be used just as a nostalgia moment, you know, because we have a lot of the elders that came out of the nation. You know, they were the fruit of Islam. They were MGT. And this is not something where I'm reading this history just so we can look at it as history. I'm reading this history because this is something that we can accomplish now, you know. And I told Bilal, I told Mujahideen that I was going to be, you know, speaking about some things that people may not like about the leadership and about the decision making that a lot of the elders made in that time. As I said, if we would have kept that movement, if we would have kept the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's economic plan going, who knows where we would be right now. We would definitely have our own nation state in 2020. You know? So, as we know, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed, this economic plan died. His economic plan had died, as well as a result. I'm sorry. When Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed, his economic plan died, you know, as well as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when his son took over, he dissolved the business enterprises due to mismanagement. So I'm going to read an article from the Chicago Tribune. And this article was by Don Terry. And he stated that to Muhammad, his father's nation had been more concerned with property than prayers. It was more social movement than religion, more small business incubator than house of worship. Now, this is a quote from W.D. Muhammad. And he said that my father was a great social reformer. But when I came in, all I cared about was the soul. Right. So this is very important, because this thinking where we didn't care about property anymore, and all we cared about was prayers and the soul. As a result, our communities right now is a result of this decision making. You understand what I'm saying? Our dilapidated homes, our communities infested with drugs, our communities infested with prostitution and gang banging. And, we speak against all these things, but going into the masjid and praying is not going to do away with all of these things. We have to do something. You know what I'm saying? Even the Christians say faith is dead without works, right? So we can't continue to be in the masjid and pray all day. As we know, worship is following the way that Allah wanted us to live and the way that Allah ordained us to live. That's really worship, living how Allah wants us to live. So it's not just about making salat all day. It's not just about praying. We got to actually get out and do the work. The whole planet Earth is our masjid. It should not just be a certain building, and it should not just be a certain day that we're working. We should be worshiping every day based on, a blueprint that was laid out in front of us. Allah gave us a blueprint. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us a blueprint. All of the messengers that we had, prophets, messengers we had, gave us a blueprint. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad loved his people enough that regardless of how he was talked about, he kept his people first because he had a vision and he had a plan. So a lot of our elders, we dropped the ball on that. And I also want to talk about this thing. We talk about the soul a lot, and none of our leaders ever really told us what the soul is. And I don't want to really get into that whole thing. We can have another lecture or another conversation on what the soul is. But what we do know is that the soul is not a spooky thing. The soul is material, right? When you study science, as Muslims, we have to be scientists. The Quran is not just a religious book. Islam is mathematics, and mathematics is Islam. That's what the nation loves to say, and it's true. There's so many miracles throughout the Quran that we have yet to uncover, and I would like to delve into a lot of these different miracles that, if it wasn't from Allah, if it wasn't a divine book, it would be impossible for these things to be in that book. So we know that the soul is material, and that means that you must cultivate the soul through material means, right? So us as a people, Black people, we produce nothing. You understand what I'm saying? We don't produce our own houses. We don't produce our own food. We don't produce our own clothes. We don't educate our own children. You know, it's starting to get more popular to homeschool and things like that. But across the board, we're sending our children to public schools. You know, so as of right now, our community is acting on a parasitic level. And parasites don't have souls. Parasites do not have enough electricity running through their body to cultivate a soul. You understand what I'm saying? Right now, our communities, we are operating at a very low frequency. And to truly cultivate the soul, you can't just pray. You have to have a balance. Allah created everything with a balance and harmony. We know that Allah created everything in pairs. So if you are sick physically, then you are also sick spiritually. If you are sick mentally, then you are also sick spiritually. So you have to work on all these levels of life. You can't just, be excessive about salat and prayer and then leave everything else. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I believe that he had a great balance because he wasn't just about property. He was about prayer. He was about spirituality. Remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us at one time, of course, I wasn't there, but from my studies, he taught us at one time that we should pray 7 times a day, which is more than 5 times. We know, like, we taught to pray 5 times a day in Sunni Islam, Orthodox Islam, but Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to pray 7 times a day. You understand what I'm saying? He was about the social life. He got us off of drugs, off of alcohol, out of prostitution, out of gambling. We had to uphold a certain integrity. You know, our women couldn't just walk out in the street at any time of night. You know what I'm saying? We had to help our women get to their car, get to their house. Whatever you were doing, you stopped and respected that woman and let that woman, help that woman to do whatever she was trying to do. We treated our women with respect at one time. So that was the social life. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So we said prayers. We said, of course, that's in spirituality. We said the social life. He also taught us how to eat to live, which is the third thing. Right? So he cared about our health. He said that in this new world ran by us, this new government ran by us, that we were going to live into the hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. Right? So he made sure that he taught us how to eat to live. If some of it was correct, some of it wasn't. But the point is that he had a plan, and coming from the slave diet, it was a great diet at that time. He understood the circadian rhythm. He understood the circadian rhythm of the human body. And he told us, eat after 12 o'clock. Because he knows that at one time, our bodies are ready to digest at one time of the day. At one time. Another time, our bodies are eliminating. And another time, our bodies are resting. Right? So he also taught us about and preached about having industry. We had our own import-export business of fish. We were making international connections with different nations. He also taught us about economics and financials. And lastly, of course, property. So he had that balance that right now we have lost. So, and if anyone has the right to criticize the actions of the Imam or any of the elders, any of the leadership that's been in the War of the Muhammad community, it is the children that grew up in this community, because we are the ones that are affected by poor decision making. The reason why, and we were just having this conversation in private, me and Bilal, Mujahideen, and the reason why the masjid in our community is getting emptier is because what is being spoken about in the masjid is not relevant. Every generation, the youth are becoming more and more intelligent. And we want to learn something that's going to help us in our everyday lives. We want to be a part of something that's going to transform our community into that great civilization ran by us that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad envisioned would come into existence. So I say all that to say that we must keep the best practices of our ancestors and leave the worst practices of our ancestors alone. You know, don't forget about them, but learn from them, because they left a blueprint for us as well. And it's our job to use critical thinking and to figure out what's going to work for us and what's not going to work for us. You know, this may be the WD Muhammad community, but we should never become personality worshipers where we just follow what someone says without using good sense. You know, a lot of people say common sense, but, you know, people don't have common sense anymore. Now, the common sense that people have is bad sense. So I like to say good sense. We have to bring back the having good sense. We need to make that popular again. So a lot of our leaders, MLK, I know WD Muhammad has said it before, a lot of our leaders, we thought that assimilating into a corrupt society and trying to change it into a corrupt government was the answer. But it's not the answer. Holding up the American flag is not the answer. The dysfunctional state of the Black community is a result of integration. So you already know with the title, I'm with separation, you know, because it's been proven from studying the best practices of our ancestors and studying the worst practices of our ancestors. It's been proven that separation works. We can point out all of these Black communities that have worked being separated. We really can't point out any Black communities that have worked being integrated. You know, they say that the dollar stays in the Black community for 6 hours and then leaves. So we got to fix that. So if we don't separate, the answer was and will always be separation. And the longer we continue to fight that, the longer we continue to fight it, the more we are going to suffer. And that's just real talk. You know, this is your youth coming to you and letting you know what we think about what's going on and what we've witnessed. And yes, we go back and we study our ancestors. You know, so a lot of times we may not speak out, but just know that we are watching. You know, and as we grow and mature, just be ready for a lot of the youth, a lot of the young Muslims to step in and, you know, not only voice their opinions, but do something about the current situation. So I know that we spoke last week about protesting, the protest, the rioting and things like that. And I said that I wasn't against the protesting or the rioting. But I do want to say as well that I'm not for it either, you know, because it's not going to do anything. It's not really going to get us anywhere. You know, there's a reason that in the public school, when they teach us about the civil rights movement, when they teach us about a lot of different ways that we got justice, they only teach us about marching. There's a reason that they only teach us about marching, because they're not going to show us the real way to bring about freedom, justice, and equality for our people. They're never going to show us that. The only people that are going to show us that is our people. And this is why we must have our own institutions. We cannot do away with our own institutions. because the enemy is not going to teach us how to bring about freedom, justice, and equality. The reason why there is white supremacy is because we allow them to rule over us. We cannot allow that anymore. So with all of these protests going on and riots and things like that, you know, the Black struggle, police brutality, Black oppression, all these things are real. But what we have to understand is that the Black struggle, the Black movement has been hijacked. There's a reason why the media, the government, they're all promoting blackness right now. They're all Black Lives Matter and this is what we're about, and kneeling with kente cloths and things like that. Just know that these people have their own agenda, and it's not about Black people anymore. You know, we have social manipulators out here. Imam Benjamin Bilal used to teach us about that. We have social manipulators out here that know how to incite our emotions, right? So they're going to promote and spread propaganda about something that is going to incite our emotions, incite the emotions of the American people, whether you're Black, white, whatever, you know. So we just have to understand that this is no longer our fight. We think it's about us, but when we out there marching, we got these different groups. We got Antifa, we got different paid protesters, and you know, people sending bricks out in the middle of marches. You know, they got videos of people riding around passing out bricks to Black people to throw at buildings and tear things up. You know, we have I don't know if y'all seen the video, if y'all saw the video of a man dressed in all Black, a white man dressed in all Black, coming up with a gas mask, busting out all the windows, and I believe it was an AutoZone, and setting it on fire. And the protests that were there, they was chasing, you know, following him down the street like, yo, why we trying to peaceful protest? Who are you coming over here setting buildings on fire? Because at the end of the day, that's going to affect us. So we have to be careful, because we think that the reason that the media is promoting all of this stuff that's going on is because they love us and they want to help us out, but it's not. They have their own agenda, right? So I mentioned Imam Benjamin Bilal, and he taught us that one of the organizations in the social engineering, one of the organizations into the social engineering of the masses is the Tavistock Institute in England. So research the Tavistock Institute. You know, there are a lot of so-called Black institutions and movements that are either founded or funded by white people. A lot of them are funded by Jews. We have to be careful with joining onto or following organizations that are not organically grown by us. We have to. Black Lives Matter is a great, meaningful saying and a value that needs to be instilled in the people. But at the same time, I am not too sure of the organization. You know, just be careful with following any organization that the media puts in front of your face. So I'm just saying, research these organizations before you go following them and putting up, you know, going on your Instagram and putting black screens up the whole day. We don't know what's these people's motive and if they're really for us. You know, there's a lot of information out there that tells us that they're not, you know, and they're more about LGBTQ, more about feminism and these different these different causes that they're using Black lives to help to promote. So we have to be aware of all this stuff. You can go on Black Lives Matter on their website and click donate. And you'll see that when you click that donate button, it brings you to a URL called Act Blue. When you look up Act Blue, It's a website that's used by candidates and campaigns and different 501c3s to raise money for the Democratic Party. Now, I can't say exactly what the money is being used for because they are a platform where they let people of different businesses to raise money for certain causes. But I'm just saying be aware because it's associated with the Democratic Party. It's associated with candidates running, you know, and a lot of these politicians that we're looking at now, they have used this website to raise money for themselves and their campaigns. So be careful before we go spending money with these groups that we really know nothing about. Now, we talk about Democrats and Republicans. The Democratic Party has historically passed bills that have harmed the Black community. They've done it over and over and over. And we just follow them because they pander to our community. They pander to us to get our vote, right? And we have to hold this Democratic Party accountable. What did Malcolm X say? Malcolm X said the Republicans are wolves and the Democrats are the wolves in sheep's clothing. So really, we shouldn't be Republicans or Democrats. We have to have our own political party, you know, that's only going to be about our agenda and what we want to bring about. You understand what I'm saying? So everybody's looking at Joe Biden right now, and there's a lot of Black people that want to vote for Joe Biden. But Joe Biden is a racist. You know what I'm saying? They got pictures of Joe Biden holding hands with the KKK leader. You understand what I'm saying? Joe Biden was the person who wrote that crime bill that put, I don't know, millions of Black people in jail. I don't know how many Black people put in jail. But the crime bill did a lot of damage to our community. You know, 3 strikes you're out, different policies and different things that had to do with the justice system. As we already know that the justice system has been used against us. It's been used to put us in jail. So we have to be careful with trying to vote Joe Biden in just because we don't like Donald Trump. That's not the answer. That's not the answer at all. We've historically done that. We don't like somebody, so we vote for the next person. We can't use emotions to vote. So, as we know, a Republican, Richard Nixon, had the war on drugs. He passed the war on drugs. So we shouldn't really be with either party, Democratic or Republican. We need to form our own party. So I talk about everything that's going on and with the riots, protests, all the propaganda, everybody wanting to support Black Lives Matter. And I guess we think that now the American people, everybody loves us, the media loves us, the government, you know, but that's not true. So I want to bring up this lawsuit right now. I'll see if I can share my screen. So can y'all see that? Can you see that below? Can you see that? So this right here is a lawsuit that was filed February 26th. I can scroll down a little bit. By Cyrus A. Parsa. And this is the lawsuit that's, these court cases are going on right now. And I'm going to tell you what it involves. Right? So the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, the AI organization, Inc., Cyrus A. Parsa, the world's people, victims of persecution, rape, torture, concentration camps, sex, human and organ trafficking, and organ harvesting in China, Hong Kong, America, and around the world, not limited to the democracy, activists, Falun Dafa practitioners, Uyghurs, I don't know how to pronounce that, Christians, Tibetans, judges. It's a lot of people that are the plaintiffs in this lawsuit right here. And it's verse, Google, Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden, the people that a lot of people are trying to vote for right now. You don't even know that he has a lawsuit against him right now. Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, who for some reason the black people, we love the Clintons. We say Bill Clinton was the first black president. He wasn't the first black president. You know, so Hillary Clinton, and so many names on here. We have Facebook, we have the World Bank, we have Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. We have all of these people that are being sued right now. There's a court case, I don't want to say sued, but there's a court case against them for so many crimes against humanity. And nobody knows about this right now. And I'll tell you the reason we don't know about it. Because we have all of this rioting, protesting. They're spreading, you know, on the news about different black men getting killed. We got coronavirus going on. We have all these different things going on where they are trying to keep us distracted of what's going on behind the scenes, right? No one knows about this lawsuit. Hillary Clinton, different politicians are going to court right now for this. No one knows anything about it. Why is the media not promoting this? Why is the media only promoting black people getting killed? Why are they only promoting people marching and rioting? Why are they only promoting coronavirus? So just know that the enemy has their own agenda that they want to push, and they're not for us. So let me bring this back up. So I touched on the lawsuit. So as I said last week, I'm in an indigenous government called the Aboriginal Republic of North America, which is an indigenous government formed by us for us to enforce and protect our rights. Becoming a part of this indigenous government puts you in your correct status as an Aboriginal American and just as a human being, period. So yes, we do want to seek reparations from the government. We want to seek reparations from the people who, you know, put us through this harsh treatment. And as I said, it wasn't just slavery, it was denationalization. We got to start saying it was denationalization and genocide. We went through a genocide. You know, it's not enough to say slavery, because we can say slavery and then all these other people come up, white people, all these different kind of people, and say, oh, well, we went through slavery too. It wasn't the same thing. They didn't go through the harsh conditions that we went through for hundreds and hundreds of years, generation after generation, you know. So although we are going to the UN or the government or whoever owes us to seek reparations, right, we have to self-administer our own reparations. This is what this government allows us to self-administer our own reparations. So how do we do that? Aboriginal Americans are not subject to tax. So when you are a part of ARNA, once you do your paperwork and do everything you need to do to get contractually, to make you contractually an ARNA national, then you are not subject to tax. We can go, how do we know this? We can go to Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the Constitution. And in this section of the Constitution, it states that representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. So joining this government gives you the choice to become exempt from income taxes. It gives you the choice to become exempt from property taxes. It gives you the choice to become exempt from sales tax. And we teach you how to get out of debt. Also, you'll be exempt from vaccines, because that's one of the things that's, in New York, religious exemptions for vaccines are not a thing anymore. There's no exemption for vaccines in New York. So this is something that joining onto a foreign government in this geographical location of North America, we are going to be able to provide for our nationals that everybody won't be able to get, because we don't know what's in these vaccines. Everybody promoting, oh, when we get the vaccine, when we get the vaccine. Do you think it's intelligent for you to take a vaccine and don't know the ingredients in the vaccine? Well, that's what we've been doing the whole time. So also in honor, we have Aboriginal University, where you can become a jurist. A jurist is one who is skilled in law, and you can learn how to do tax exemptions for other people, your family, your friends. You can create an entire business around this, doing tax exemptions. We learn how to get our men out of jail and debt for child support. Now, of course, our men, we need to take care of our children. But when it comes to this child support thing, the government has found out how to destroy our families, put the woman against the man, have him in all type of debt and jail for child support. What we need to do is join a government ran by us and teach our women how to find good husbands, teach our men how to find good wives, and this child support thing won't be an issue. But as I said, we can, get the government, the United States government, out of our business and get our men out of jail and debt from child support. So other things, we can also learn how to remove debts that have been on your credit report for over 7 years, and learn how to do vaccine exemptions. Again, you can learn how to do them not only for yourself, but for other people, and create businesses around all of these things. We also learn how to do audits and how to come after mortgage companies for mortgage fraud. So maybe at a later time, we can speak a little more about Aboriginal University. But you can also become a doctor and learn indigenous food science. It's a way to eat, so we can be living into those hundreds and hundreds of years, how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we're going to be living. He even said we might live to 1,000 years, And if we study the old civilizations, and we see that the people, our ancestors, were living a lot longer than we are living now. We study the Kemites, the ancient Kemites, look at the mummies, and you see that their teeth are still intact. They don't have a bunch of cavities, and you see that they ate plant-based diets. And this is one of the reasons why they were able to live so long. This is one of the reasons why their minds were in the right place. This is one of the reasons why they were so healthy, and they were able to build things like pyramids that today we can't even find out how the ancient Kemites, which for those who don't know, that's Egypt, how they built these pyramids. So where was I at? So yeah, so you can become an Aboriginal doctor. So in honor, we have our own political party. And this political party is called the Indigenous Political Party. It's part of the Indigenous Political Authority. And you can go to www.aliforpresident.org and read more about this political party.
Shadi, you there? I think Shadi Akhi is experiencing, he's frozen in time right now. Apologize for the technical difficulties. You are frozen. Hold on one second. Okay, so Shadi Akhi is falling out. We're going to try to get him back in just a second here. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me see. We need to get him back in so we can finish hearing what he has to offer. Okay. All right, as we wait for Shadi Akhi to return, apologize for the technical difficulties that we are experiencing at the moment. Shadi Akhi should be back momentarily to finish his special segment here on New Freedom Exchange. Again, we want to thank everyone for listening to Freedom Exchange, for tuning in. We ask you to, if you have a comment or question, please put it in the comment section. We will get to it. We also ask that if you can share the live, please share the live stream as well. We are streaming live on Shadi Akhi. Shadi Akhi is streaming live on his artist page, Shadi Akhi. We ask for those who are tuning in on Shadi Akhi's page to please share. And for those who are tuning in on New Freedom Exchange Facebook-like page, to share this conversation to your friends and family. And also, I'm encouraging people to like this platform here at New Freedom Exchange. We are developing this platform for the next generation, for us as young people, and for everyone's benefit. This platform is very special to us, and we wanted to offer it to you as well to benefit from the platform. So check out Shadi Akhi. He is also an artist, musical artist, that we need to support his music. Sunamusic.com is on the bottom of the screen. That is his website where you can become a subscriber to the website. And also Instagram.com is growing. His Instagram is scrolling across the bottom there. Instagram.com or Shadi/Shadi Akhi. Check him out there for his content and to really get to know him as a total person. That he's more than just music. Obviously, for those who didn't know him, we're obviously giving him this platform to voice his concerns, to voice his platform here. That he has brought up a lot of points here that we would like to discuss, and momentarily we will do that. And we're working to bring back in Shadi Akhi as we speak. So I'm checking in with him now. See what's the deal. Thank you all for tuning in. Please bear with us. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties here that we are experiencing. A little bit about the New Freedom Exchange platform. This is a culturally motivated series, culturally motivated podcast, simulcast, that we use social commentary and the sacred commentary to address matters in the community. Here we have Shadi Akhi has returned. Hold on, let's get him back into the stream. Shadi Akhi. Walaikum assalam. Welcome back. Yeah, we got the feds tapped the live stream. You're going too deep on them. So we're gonna allow you to finish up what you were saying, and then we can open it up for discussion and question and answers. But you could take it back. It's all yours.
Okay, let me get back. So I don't know if I put this up so y'all can see Dr. Edward Wilmot Blyden. I might have forgot. I think I did forget to show y'all so y'all can see what he looks like. The first man to speak about nationality, for the black man and woman in America. So keep that up for a little bit so y'all can type him in. So where was I at? So yes, so we have the Indigenous Political Party, which is part of the Indigenous Political Authority. And you can go to www.aliforpresident.org and learn more about the Indigenous Political Party. You can become a part of it. You can donate to it. Also in August, we're going to be having the Aboriginal Summit, where you can learn more about how you can join this government, because this is going to be the only way for us to get to freedom. You know, the title is freedom. How do we come about freedom, or bring about freedom, justice, and equality for the black man and woman in America? Is it separation or integration? And based on the best practices of our ancestors, based on just using critical thinking and analyzing what everybody who came before us, analyzing what they taught, and then not just looking at what they taught, but then looking at what they actually implemented, we are able to see that separation is a great and effective move for us. So we got to go back to that. So I'm gonna also go to my Facebook, and I'm actually read a quote that I wrote on Facebook. I believe it was last week, and it was, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. That's one of the realest quotes that I ever heard. Regardless of that truth, we keep hearing people say, go to the polls and vote, over and over. We got the right to vote in 1965, and we have been voting ever since. Meanwhile, we are in an atmosphere reminiscent of the 60s, right? I got on the phone with my mom, I think, or text or something, and I'm like, yo, this looked like what they were showing us in school back in the day during the marches and everything that's going on. So after 55 years of doing the same thing, I think it's time to wake up, don't you think? Black people voting individually with no agenda will get you nowhere. Who made it a thing not to tell people who you're voting for? Why is a so-called election that is crucial to our well-being private? I will tell you why. Because disunited people with no unity have no power. And that's the way the enemy wants it. If you still believe in the system, then block voting is the way to go. Form an agenda and back a politician that agrees to follow through on your plan. Get it in writing and weaponize your vote. If he or she doesn't implement your agenda, then the bloc votes against that politician, that president, that senator, whatever they are, the next term. A political party 20,000 plus strong will make any person take you seriously. Unity is the only way. So being a part of the Indigenous Political Authority, we are only interested in block voting. We're not interested in, let me take this down. Yeah, so being a part of the Indigenous Political Authority and the Indigenous Political Party, we are not interested in voting individually. We're not interested in doing things the same way we've been doing. This is a political party which is under the Aboriginal Republic of America. So we support separation, and this is exactly what we're doing. You know, we've seen towns like Toomsboro go viral. Everybody's sharing it, but it's not just about Toomsboro. It's the point is the principle and the excitement behind wanting that Black people have behind wanting to get our own nation state. And this is the answer. So when it comes to integration, versus separation. For us, separation is always going to win. You understand what I'm saying? So I had about an hour. You know, I've been on here an hour, and we can go for the questions. We can go to the questions.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings again to all of the listening audience and those who are tuned in on Shadi Akhi's Facebook page and also the artist page and also the New Freedom Exchange Facebook like page. We would like to thank again. We'd like to thank Shadi for taking the time out and bringing this, bringing forth these concerns to us. I would like to also remind everybody who is listening that this platform here at New Freedom Exchange is an open platform. This is a series that is we're addressing culture, we're using the social and sacred commentaries to address the issues at hand, the issues at stake that's happening across our communities and across the nation and even across the country and across the world on a global sense. So I'd just like to remind the people of that. Now, aliforprayers.org. We got that going. Shadi, I would like to, before we get into this one, I know we have one statement from a brother. We're going to get to him in just a second. That's Imam Tawheed Rashad from Master Wali Muhammad. That's formerly known as Temple Number 1 in Detroit. He had a statement, but I'm going to get to his statement in just a minute. But I was taking some mental notes of the presentation, Shadi, and I wanted to discuss some of those points. And I want to have further this conversation just a little bit for the listening audience for their benefit. First and foremost, we mentioned earlier we was talking about the nation of Islam. We was talking about the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. May Allah forgive him his sins and grant him paradise. Again, Allah is the judge at the end of the day for all of us. So whatever sins and mistakes that we all have made, that reckoning goes back to Allah, for the final criterion, the final judgment. So putting that out to the atmosphere as well. We understand that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spent a little over 40 years in the position of leadership in the position of leadership of the Nation of Islam. And besides some years that he was in prison, obviously for not going to combat, not going to war, where his wife, the most Honorable Claire Muhammad, ran the Nation of Islam for those number of years where he was behind the bars along with other healthy brothers. I want to say the healthy brothers were in jail. Those who could have went to fight in the war, they chose not to. And we know why they chose not to, because Shadi has already talked about that. Why fight for a country that at that time and even today, why fight for a country that hasn't respected us as humans?
Right.
Saying. So they took that stance, and they had to suffer, in behind the prison wall. You mentioned a statement upon the death of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1975. Around that time, there was a development in the Nation of Islam that took place. We know that it transitioned for some, or for a lot, it transitioned into the world community of Al-Islam under the leadership of Imam Arfadin Muhammad, or then Minister Wallace Muhammad. And then for some, they left along with Minister Farrakhan about 2 years in. They went back to find the Nation of Islam, or to continue the works of the Nation of Islam. Right. So one of the things that a lot of people from the nation, the current Nation of Islam, underneath the leadership of Minister Louis Farrakhan, and others, who are not quite privy to all of the nuts and bolts of the Nation of Islam, all of the intricacies of it, they perceive that on the outside, for those outsiders, they perceive that there was some turmoil for organization-wise, because you had two figures split, you understand what I'm saying, and go two different separate ways, right?
Right.
Then you have people from inside the nation who stood by Minister Farrakhan, or most importantly, stood by the mission of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and said, well, his son is not beholding to those principles, to that framework that you said, to that establishment of social, of the social, with the businesses, with the institutions, and etc. So I just want to bring to people's attention that, and put this in the atmosphere as well, that, and to context, that when Imam Muhammad took over, when Wallace took over, for some people know him as Wallace, so if you see me here, that's why. When Imam Muhammad took over, we have to. I want to put out several things. One, we know that there was a demilitarized of the fruit of Islam was totally abolished. That whole class was totally abolished, right? That whole system was taken away, right?
Right.
Okay, we had that, and we had a couple other things that were being changed. The temples obviously were changed to masajids, to masjids. The names, temple number 12 or temple number 1, temple number 7, they took on different names as the transition took place. So now we're not just temples no more; we are masjids, right? Okay. You have brought up a quote of Imam Muhammad about him addressing the soul, right? And we would talk about the soul without getting into, like you said, we can
add that at a different.
All that about the soul. I would like to point out that Imam Muhammad in this book. Okay, this I had to pull this book from my library for this discussion. This book is about Imam Muhammad, Islam's culture for business success. This was one of his top books, and my father, we have it in our library. It's kind of beat up, but because my cat got to it, so don't mind that. But I want to read, for this benefit of this discussion, I want to read a brief statement that he says in this book, and maybe this will add to the conversation, benefit for the people. Okay. He says in this chapter, it's called Wealth Must Circulate. Wealth must circulate. In the Quran, Allah does not only point to the importance of business life, He also gives guidance for it. It says, conduct the business interest in a way to prevent wealth from being monopolized. See that it circulates. This is a promotion strategy for the life of a society. Society can be oppressed by a strong business minority or a powerful business establishment. Islam must be against that. It might sound like we're socialists, but we're not. We are a community people. Allah says in the Quran that He does not overlook the worker's output, whether it be a male or a female. Both are to receive a just compensation or pay. We understand that to mean women have the right to engage in business just like men. They also have equal rights to their production just like men. Whatever their effort and investment earned, they are entitled to it. He says, I recall reading the book by Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man, which is, if you haven't read it, I suggest people read it. The most interesting expression I found in that book for me said, in effect, quote, somewhere along the road, he found that he was severed from his social responsibility. This is what Ralph Ellison said, that he was severed from his social responsibility. That made the whole book worth the money and the time I spent reading it. This is what Imam Muhammad said. Allah wants Muslims to be financially and socially responsible. He said, I owe a lot to my father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. My start was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He insisted upon us being responsible for ourselves and for everything in our charge. This was Islamic. He got this from the Quran and the life of our prophet. We were taught by Elijah Muhammad to respect our families, like Shadi was saying, our children, our women, our homes, and our property. We were also to be responsible for those who trusted us with something. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that if you worked for a boss, even if he were a white man, give him an honorable's day, or hardest day of work. Don't cheat him. He said, if you borrow, pay your debts. Elijah Muhammad would write a whole column on that sometimes called Muslims Pay Your Debt. That's the title of the piece, the column that Elijah Muhammad used to write. I have to find that. I'm not sure if that was in the Muhammad Speaks or that was in the beginning when Muhammad Speaks was sheltered in the Pittsburgh Courier, because it started in the Pittsburgh Courier before they became its own independent newspaper. It was in the black-owned Pittsburgh Courier. He said, Imam Muhammad said, be responsible was what he insisted upon, right? So I just want to put that. He goes into marriage and how that it connects to establishment of our social business, our community life, and we can't have a community without having healthy families. But I just want to point out that the Imam Muhammad, even though some people may say that he abandoned the principle of some of the principles of his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there is a concept that he developed that reminded me of. It still reminds me of what Elijah Muhammad was preaching about, and that was New Africa. Now, some may say, "Oh man, brother, here you go. New Africa doesn't exist. Where can we find New Africa?" Like, I know what you're saying. I know what people are saying out there. But hear me out. Hear me out. New Africa is, in my opinion, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had during that time, and even in fact, perhaps even a couple steps further. The vision, if you look at the blueprint of New Africa, the map that Imam Muhammad had drawn up, to scale, it had what? It had our own movie theaters. It had our own skating rinks. It had our own businesses. It had the mosque. It had own, what Shadi said, our own private institutions for the education of our children in our families. It had the elements there. It didn't leave the this thought process of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just want to put that, in my opinion, I just want to put that in the context. And then he introduced a couple other programs, which some people may be familiar with, some are not. AMCOC this was the early 80s. CPC, which was at the time, I'm familiar more with CPC because when I was of age, I remember my father being an investor into CPC. Collective purchasing, and we had the Salam Nutrition, which was the coral calcium. I remember my father used to buy a lot of the coral calcium tablets. We had a deal with the brothers and sisters in Okinawa, so we was getting this coral calcium. This was before Styles Peace, Pharmacy for Life. This was before a lot of that health is wealth. I mean, it was being talked about in the nation, but I'm talking about health as wealth on a global, what people talk about now in the African American community is bigger because it got a lot of people talking about it now. We had Salam Nutrition, we had CPC, and we had a business ties with some suits. I forgot who was getting our suits from, but it was definitely a business connect. And the reason why I'm bringing out all these things, and there's more. I mean, obviously I could bring up more, but you may ask, Shadi may ask, okay, and some other people may ask, okay, where is it now? What happened to it? Well, I'll tell you what happened to it in summary. What happened to it is what happened to, in my opinion, what happens to us as a people. When a leader shows you the framework, right? And he or she gives you the framework, he or she expects you to take it and run with it. Not, I already given you, if I'm saying, Shadi, here's the blueprint, right? I'm expecting you, the student, right, to actually take the blueprint and run with it. Not for me to continue to hold your hand throughout the whole process. So I'm saying these were things that were put in place. So I'm saying for us as students or students, not just followers, but students of Imam Muhammad to take further. Because if we are sincere students of Imam Muhammad, then we know that Imam Muhammad wasn't just a spiritual teacher, that he wasn't just concerned about the condition of the soul. On one aspect, the condition of the soul is representative not just of the spiritual ramifications, but also of the social ramifications. Right. If that's why, and our connection also to humanity too. The soul is our connection to humanity because we all came from, Allah says we all came from one soul. So we have a connection with humanity, but our humanity was rejected due to the mindsets of the Caucasian and the devil-minded Caucasians who propelled a logic that was satanic or satanic. Basically, this whole deal of white supremacy. It
Right.
all comes from Shaitan. Anything that has supremacy is tied to supremacy, is tied to the parable of Shaitan when he said, I'm better than this person, I'm better than Adam, I'm better than because I'm created from fire. That mindset is what gave them some fuel to the fire, like, oh man, we're better than the savage, what they call us, the savage. But really, Shadi and listening audience, our people is really the ones responsible for educating the Caucasian who were savages.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If we really want to get funky with the history,
Right.
but that's my first point. I wanted to clarify. Not to clarify, but bring more context to that part of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did like some of the other points you were saying, Shadi, which is so much similar to what I just said in reference to we need our own private institutions to train our kids. I mean, not train, but train and educate. I guess it's what I'm talking about. And we have the Sister Claire Muhammad schools, but let me give you to this. Let me give the audience this. The Imam moved us to change the names of the schools to Claire Muhammad to honor his mother, to pay homage, to pay respect to his mother. That's how much he respected her as a woman, as a mother, for what she did and what she represented in terms of the motherhood, in terms of the sacrifice that she made in teaching her children at home. She could have died. She could have went to jail. You know what I'm saying? When the feds came to her door, when the social workers came to her door, and she took that stand that she did. So in honor of that, he changed the schools to that name. Now, the question is, a lot of people may be asking, is how many schools are left? Well, Akis and Uktis and brothers and sisters, there's not many of those institutions left.
Right. And not only that, they're not really doing well.
No, they're not doing well.
And I know something like this pandemic that's going on, I know that's I would like to see, I hope that through the pandemic that it will be able, Claire Muhammad schools will be able to last, being that we were already struggling.
Well, Shadi, I'm gonna be. You hear me? Well, Shadi, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna be very honest. As a product of the Claire Muhammad school system, I graduated from the Claire Muhammad school here in Queens, right, in New York City, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Claire Muhammad school system, we're down to about. I'm giving everyone up. We're down to like 8. I think it's like 8 functioning schools versus versus how many schools we had back in the nation.
Right.
I'm saying all the way to 8. Hundreds of schools. Yeah. So my problem is, it's not my issue is with this. Yes, COVID is having a direct impact on our businesses and our institutions. Yes, we understand that. But for COVID, let's actually analyze what really took place, which was this whole lack of leadership piece. Because to be honest with you, people were so busy worrying about building masajids and not building more schools. Right. The Imam said, education is our number one priority. It should be our number one priority. Right. Now, somebody say, oh, why is that business, Aki? Well, to be honest, if you're not educating your children, how can you say you want to build business if they're not properly educated? Via either you're getting homeschooled via financial literacy, or you're getting that in Claire Muhammad School, or you're getting that in perhaps another African American owned private institution. Maybe it's not Claire Muhammad. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm for too. It doesn't have to be Claire Muhammad per se, but if it's a model that we all can support, that we all can stand by, you know what I'm saying, then let's build those institutions. You know what I'm saying?
And if we study the early years of Islam, right? And I'm not talking about looking at hadith or even into the Quran, right? Okay. We can look at the actual monuments and buildings that were left in parts of Africa, in parts of the Middle East. And we know now that these first masajid were actually institutions of learning. The archaeologists and the people that go in there, they find that these were institutions of learning. They were not big places where everybody come and pray. So there was a certain shift I don't know exactly when it happened, where the masajid were only about coming in, making salat, listening to a khutbah, and then leaving.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Shadi. I'll tell you when the shift happened, but not when the shift. I'm telling you, not, I'm not gonna give you like dates, but I'm gonna put some commentary on that.
Right.
What has happened? Well, let's backtrack. For the African American Muslim, or for the Black Muslim, for us, right? We didn't have that type of al-Islam. What I mean by that, I'm not saying there's a different type of al-Islam, but we didn't have that type of upbringing. We had an upbringing where we knew better. We knew that we had to build our own institutions. We knew we had to build our own centers of culture. We knew we had to develop our businesses. We weren't taught that. You see, what happens is when you get hung up in affiliate groups, what I call affiliate groups, these other affinity groups, these other schools of thought, these other methabs, you get hooked up with some of these guys from overseas, and brothers and sisters from overseas. I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just putting into context. When you get hooked up with them now, the problem is that they feed you something that is totally counterintuitive to the development of the African American people. Period.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's this facts. You know, we can look at that and we see the effects of the foreign influence that it's had on the African American community in some of these communities. Some of the WD misagists who were once NOI temples, who transitioned with Imam Muhammad, have been lost to an influence that is not even of the Elijah Muhammad and is definitely not of his son.
Right.
So tell me how that happened. That happens because people have no respect for the leadership. There's no transparency within leadership. There's no accountability. People fall asleep. They fall asleep on the cargo. They fall asleep on their post. As they would say, you stand on your post.
Right.
You know, since they fall asleep on your post, and what happens is that you fall asleep on your post, you allow other influences to come in. And that's exactly what happened. That's why when Elijah Muhammad said, close the doors to the temple, and he said, let me build with my people, that's what he meant. Close the doors to the outside influences. Close the door to those other influences that will take us left or take us right. I want to deal with my people.
And that was actually one part too. You know, in our private conversation, we were getting more into the science. But also, it was just a great mental, you know, calling the white man the devil made sure we had a picture of what the enemy was, and we decided, don't let him in. Don't let them in. Right? And we understood that we had to do for self, and we could not go to them. So later on, as when we started getting the Arab influence, like you said, and different influence, we started to accept everybody in, and we had no picture of what an enemy was.
Okay.
Right. So that's when you're going to be influenced by different things. That's when you're going to be influenced because you're trying to include everyone. You forget about yourself. You know, and we've forgotten about ourselves. A lot of black people are, I ain't gonna lie, they're Arabs right now in black skin. You know what I'm saying? So we have to understand that we need to keep our culture. You know, as we always say, Islam did not come to do away with our culture.
No, and in fact, let's hit it like this. Today, I came across the quote from the Prophet. Let's keep it funky. The Prophet even said, this is Sunnah. The Prophet said, appreciation for one's heritage is a source of wealth.
Right.
That right there, you don't need no one else to tell you anything. The Prophet already said it.
Right.
That's it. So we don't need anyone to come amongst the ranks and say, brother, that's haram. Wait a minute. No. You know what I'm saying? Did y'all forget? Oh, they didn't have it forgotten. They keep it that amongst themselves. See, they don't want you to know that type of information. Right. They want you to know what their story is. This story. They push their narrative and culture. Meanwhile, the Prophet said, hold up, wait a minute. I did what? I said appreciation for one's heritage is a source of wealth.
Right.
So what does that mean? That's the same thing Garvey said. That's the same thing others have said, who came after the Prophet, who have said almost the same exact quote. Sankofa says what? Sankofa says, go back. That's what it says, right? Go back and learn thy history, learn thyself, know thyself, all these things. You know, everything is intertwined, interconnected. That's how we should see it in the context, you know, in contextual. And then another thing, the Prophet said what? He came like one like Moses, they said, and liberated his people of oppression. You know, one example is that he freed the slaves. Bilal, but it wasn't only just Bilal. There were other Sahabas who were African, that were with Bilal, that were with the Prophet. That we forget. Don't talk about it, Sheikh. No haram. No. Yes, we have to talk about it, because it's not just Umar, it's not just Uthman, it's not just Abu Bakr, it's not just the regular that we all hear about. It's not even just Bilal, because Bilal is tokenized in the Muslim community. They get us to come speak about Bilal, and that's it for their little Black History Month, if they even have that in the masajid. You know what I'm saying? So my whole point is, my thing is, you mentioned that piece, and I won't put that out there. And then you mentioned another piece about government, you know, governing ourselves, right? You talked about politics a lot in this. You talked about politics a lot in this in your latter portion of your presentation, and I'd like to talk about elaborate a little bit about that before we answer. I think we answered this question by Brother Tawheed. I'm gonna just put it up there anyway for you everyone to see. This is Imam Tawheed Rashid.
I gotta go in a couple minutes too. So.
Oh, all right. So we'll wrap up. Okay. So Imam Tawheed Rashad, he's an Imam from Mesh Wali Muhammad, and he said the soul is not material. The nafs is material. The body is the vehicle that contains the soul. And then he says you look up the Imam W. Muhammad's business program, which we already discussed already. We'll discuss the soul. We'll discuss the soul another time. We'll get into these first two sentences another time. It's a little deep because it goes deeper than that. But I just want to wrap up with this and say my last piece on this, and we can wrap up about government and how we should govern ourselves. I agree that we should not be persuaded by either party that exists, the Democratic or the Republican Party. I agree with the quote. The Malcolm X quote was timely. I think that quote is from his speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, if I'm not mistaken, in which he talks about the Democratic and Republican Party. He talks about the politicians. But I just want to be clear that we have to know what works for us. You know, we have to know what works for us, what's best for us, what's best for our interests as a community. I'm not sure that we fully understand the process. Even I don't even talk about the Democratic Republican Party. Just the political process itself for ourselves, the civic, how to govern ourselves. I'm not even sure we really understand that, to be honest with you, because I get the impression that, you know, we just fall for anything, fall for the okie doke. We don't demand accountability from the politicians. We don't even know what we really want. For our own selves. We're so divided as a people. We don't even know what we want from our own selves. So we can't. You can't expect the house is divided to come up with a plan until the house tries to unite, at least under some principles, some guiding principles. So like job, employment, like housing, but like some of these things we can provide for ourselves. Actually, we don't really need too much government. You know, in that sense, we can provide jobs for our own people by, you know, business people from our own community providing jobs. Healthcare, we can do what the Black Panthers did. They established health services at the time. They established a free lunch program. All that stuff was done off the muscle, off the grassroots. But it took convictions and unity and people saying, let's get together and do the thing. You know, something saying, let's do it. You know, something. So my thing is that instead of waiting for a Democrat or Republican president or a local official to do the thing, why don't we actually set out to do the thing, actually strategize how to achieve it, actually put it into writing, and then actually go about and actually establishing. Then if we need some type of help or whatever, we can get help. But we need to do it and show people that it can be done versus just sitting there and just saying that, you know, pontificating over what can be done and what wasn't done. You know what I'm saying? So, but with that being said, Shadi, if you have any last closing remarks that you would like to give everybody who's tuned in right now, any last comments that you would like to give before we peace out?
As you said, you know, we can speak about the soul at a different time. That could be a whole different, you know, another topic and lecture.
Yeah.
And I would like to go into the science of it, right?
Sure, we can.
We always like to quote people, but are these quotes just people's opinions, or do they actually go into the science? Because in Islam is about science. Like everything is about science. We can go into in the Quran where it talks about Arch al-Ijtiwa and what the Allah's stone of power and what that really is, and you know, there's a lot of science in the Quran.
Embryology, the embryology is in the Quran. The gravity, force of gravity is mentioned, of course. Mathematics is mentioned.
And I think it's so many times when we just look at it as a spiritual book and we don't understand that this is the Quran is science and mathematics and art. Like it's not just people's opinion.
I agree. 100%.
So, if we go into looking at that, I would like us to touch into the science about it. And I just have to say that, and not to be so much about, okay, this person said this, so this is what it is, you know, because as I said, we shouldn't be personality worshipers. Just because somebody said something doesn't make it right. And it's about what did the person apply, you know, to show that what they speak and what they teach is effective. It's not only about what they teach, but it's about did they implement it and was it effective, you know, and did it have a positive effect on the people. So with that being said, as I said, sunamusic.com, you can go there, sign up for my membership site, buy music, different things. My Instagram is at Shadi Akhi. My Facebook.com/Shadi Akhi. My YouTube is Shadi Akhi as well. And as I said, if you want to learn more about the Indigenous Political Authority, if you want to learn more about the Indigenous Political Party, you can go to this website right in front of you, aliforpresident.org. And also governmentreparations.com. You can learn more about ARNA in its entirety. And just want to say happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. Yes,
Black
sir.
Power.
That's right.
And assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Peace and blessings, y'all. Thank you for tuning in.
Peace.